2019, the world laughed when President Trump said he wanted to buy Greenland. It sounded completely insane, right? Just another crazy idea from a president famous for them. News anchors laughed, late-night hosts made 1,000 jokes. The Danish prime minister called it absurd. And Greenland's government was like, "We're open for business, but we are not for sale." That story disappeared. Everyone forgot about it. But here's the crazy part. Anyone who's still laughing is missing the point. Because behind the scenes, a secret power struggle was already exploding in the coldest place on Earth. Greenland isn't just a giant island. It is the key to winning the future, controlling everything from military power to trillions in resources and new global trade routes. The offer to buy it wasn't a joke, it was a warning. In fact, the U.S. has been obsessed with this idea for years. Senator Tom Cotton pitched it back in 2018, and in January 2026, the idea was pushed again super aggressively with talk of future deals and even economic threats. This is not a fantasy, it's a dead serious race for control. It was a clumsy and kind of crazy way of saying something huge. The battle for the Arctic has started, and the United States is terrified it's already losing. To understand why this massive, empty island is suddenly one of the most important places on the planet, we have to ignore the jokes and follow the money, the missiles, and the melting ice. We're about to uncover the 3 secret advantages that make Greenland the ultimate prize in a new Cold War.
America's obsession with Greenland didn't start with Trump. We have to rewind the clock to a time when the world was split in two, and the fastest way to get from America to the Soviet Union wasn't across an ocean, but right over the North Pole. During World War II, when Germany occupied Denmark, the U.S. jumped in to defend Greenland. In 1941, they signed a deal to build bases there to keep it safe. But after the war, Greenland's mission changed. It became America's giant, unsinkable watchdog staring right at the Soviets. So, in 1946, the U.S. secretly offered Denmark $100 million in gold for the entire island. Denmark said no, but the U.S. didn't give up. If they couldn't buy it, they'd do the next best thing. They signed the 1951 Defense of Greenland Agreement, which gave the U.S. military basically unlimited access. This led to one of the biggest, most secret projects of the Cold War, Thule Air Base. An entire fleet of ships brought thousands of workers to build a massive base just 900 miles from the North Pole. Thule, which is now called Pituffik Space Base, became America's shield in the Arctic. It was packed with nuclear bombers and a giant radar system designed to give the U.S. a few extra minutes if Soviet missiles were flying over the pole. This wasn't just a base, it was America's front line. The U.S. even tried a completely wild plan called Project Iceworm, where they tried to build secret tunnels under the ice to hide and launch nuclear missiles. It was a total failure. The ice moved too much, but it shows how badly they wanted to control this place. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. The threat was gone. The Arctic, once a super tense battleground, became boring. Budgets were cut. Bases closed, and nobody cared anymore. The world totally forgot about Greenland. For a little while.
While the world was looking away, the planet itself started changing. A slow, unstoppable force was waking up and was about to make Greenland the center of attention all over again. Climate change. The Arctic is warming up 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. This is happening right now, and you can see it happening in Greenland more than anywhere. This giant ice sheet has enough frozen water to raise global sea levels by over 20 feet, and it is melting at a speed that is freaking scientists out. For years, the melting was slow, but it just hit hyperspeed. Since 1996, Greenland has lost more ice than it gained every single year. 2024 was the 28th year in a row of ice loss. Since 2002, we've watched almost 5,000 billion tons of ice just vanish. The size of this is insane. In summer 2012, a crazy heat wave melted the surface of 97% of the entire ice sheet. Then another record-breaking melt happened in 2019. These aren't just warm summers, these are catastrophic events happening over and over. And this melt is doing more than just raising sea levels. All that cold, fresh water is messing with the ocean currents, and scientists are worried it could be slowing down the global ocean conveyor belt that controls weather for the entire world. And here's a crazy twist. As the insane weight of all that ice disappears, the land underneath is literally bouncing back up. This means in some parts of Greenland, the sea level is actually falling, which is a huge problem for their harbors and fishing boats. But the biggest change, the one that made every world power suddenly pay attention, isn't what's being lost, but what's being revealed. The ice is like a giant lock, and climate change is the key. As it melts away, it's unlocking three things every superpower wants: military position, insane amounts of resources, and brand new trade routes. The melting ice has turned Greenland from a frozen wasteland into the #1 prize of the 21st century.
The world's new obsession with Greenland isn't about one thing. It's about three incredible advantages all happening at once. To see why the U.S. is so desperate, you have to understand how big each one of these is. Pillar 1. Strategic location, the unsinkable aircraft carrier. You know the #1 rule of real estate: location, location, location. Well, in world politics, it's the exact same thing, and Greenland's location is, without a doubt, the most strategic on Earth. The fastest way to launch a missile at North America from Russia or China isn't from the east or west, it's straight over the North Pole. Greenland is sitting right in the middle of that path. Back in the Cold War, Thule Air Base was our watchdog. Today, its new version, Patuxent Space Base, is even more important. It's the U.S. military's northernmost base, and it's the command center for our missile defense and space-watching network. The 12th Space Warning Squadron is there 24/7, looking for missile launches and tracking thousands of satellites. On top of that, Greenland controls the GI-UK gap, the ocean pass between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK. This is the main doorway for Russia's northern fleet to get into the Atlantic, where they could threaten everything from shipping to the internet cables on the ocean floor. If you control this gap, you control their navy. The Pentagon sees Greenland as a giant, unsinkable aircraft carrier parked in the middle of the world's next hotspot. From there, the U.S. can watch Russia's military, keep an eye on China's polar Silk Road, and defend America from the most direct attack path possible. Owning it would be the ultimate cheat code for security. Letting Russia or China get it, an absolute nightmare.
Pillar 2. Resource supremacy, the Saudi Arabia of the Arctic. For centuries, Greenland's riches were buried under miles of ice. But as that ice disappears, it's revealing what everyone suspected. Greenland is sitting on one of the biggest piles of treasure on the planet. Under the rock, there's a gold mine of iron, lead, zinc, gold, uranium, and oil. But the real prize, the one that has China and the U.S. totally obsessed, is a group of 17 elements called rare earths. You've probably never heard of neodymium or dysprosium, but these elements are the secret sauce in everything. They're in your smartphone, in electric cars, in wind turbines, and in the world's most advanced fighter jets. Without them, the modern world literally stops working. And right now, one country has a complete monopoly on them: China. And they've already threatened to cut off the supply to other countries. That gives them insane power and is a massive weakness for the U.S. and Europe. This is where Greenland is a total game changer. It has some of the biggest deposits of rare earth in the world. The Quanafeld and Tanbreeze mines in the south are so huge they could completely break China's monopoly and give the West its own supply. That's why in June 2025, a U.S. bank offered a $120 million loan to get the Tanbreeze mine going. This isn't just business, it's a strategic move to control the building blocks of the future. Getting these minerals is hard because of the weather, but the prize is unbelievable. The U.S. sees a chance to finally break its dependence on its biggest rival. Pillar 3. Control of future trade. The new Suez. For hundreds of years, world trade has gone through a few tiny shortcuts: the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Malacca. Controlling these has always meant having insane power. Now, the melting Arctic is opening up brand new highways. As the ice disappears, new sea lanes are opening across the top of the world, and they are about to change shipping forever. The main ones are the Northwest Passage over Canada and the Northern Sea Route over Russia. The reason they're so amazing is simple. They are massive shortcuts. A trip from China to Europe through the Suez Canal is over 11,000 miles. But through the Northern Sea Route, it's around 7,000 miles. That's 40% shorter, saves weeks of time, and a fortune in fuel. As the ice keeps melting, these routes are becoming more and more real. Russia is building a giant new fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers to control the Northern Sea Route. And China, which now calls itself a near-Arctic state, is pushing its polar Silk Road like crazy. Greenland's location makes it the gatekeeper to this new world. Its ports could become the new Singapore or Dubai, massive hubs for refueling and shipping. For the United States, this is both a gigantic opportunity and a terrifying threat. The threat is that Russia and China will completely dominate these new routes before America even gets in the game. Controlling Greenland isn't just about using these routes, it's about controlling who uses them. It's about making sure they stay open for everyone instead of being controlled by Moscow or Beijing. The race is on to control the world's new superhighways.
Russia, the Arctic bear reawakens. For Russia, the Arctic is everything. It's their backyard, their defense, and their bank account. Over half of the entire Arctic coastline belongs to Russia. The area holds a huge amount of their oil and gas. Over the last 10 years, Moscow has gone on a spending spree, rebuilding dozens of old Cold War military bases across the Arctic. They're installing their best air defense systems and creating a military bubble where they can deny access to anyone they want. Russia has also built the world's biggest and baddest fleet of icebreakers. The U.S. has like 2 heavy icebreakers. Russia has over 40, including nuclear-powered monsters that can smash through anything. They act like the Northern Sea Route is their own private highway, forcing other ships to get their permission and pay for an escort.
China, the Polar Silk Road. What's even more shocking is China. They don't have a single inch of Arctic coastline, but Beijing declared itself a near-Arctic state and is trying to become a polar great power. Officially, they say it's all for science and business. They're building research stations and launching satellites, but everyone knows this equipment can be used for spying, mapping the ocean floor for submarines, and turning ports into military bases. China is working with Russia to get a piece of the action, using Russian ports and getting a seat at the table. They've already tried to buy an old naval base in Greenland and a huge piece of land in Iceland for a golf resort. Those plans were stopped, but it shows what they're thinking. China is playing the long game. The United States watched all of this and started to panic. It saw Russia building a fortress and China building a web of control. The idea to buy Greenland, no matter how crazy it sounded, came from a simple fear. If the U.S. didn't lock down the most important real estate in the Arctic, it would lose the planet's last frontier to its two biggest rivals. The race had begun, and the U.S. was making a desperate move to get back in. This secret war for the Arctic is one of the biggest stories happening on the planet right now, but almost nobody is talking about it. It's happening in a place most of us will never ever see, but what happens there will change the world for the next 100 years. If you want to keep discovering the secret forces changing our world, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. And let us know in the comments, should the U.S. do whatever it takes to secure Greenland, or is this a step too far? So let's go back to the first question. Why does the U.S. want to buy Greenland? The answer is obvious now. It was never a real estate deal. It was never a joke. It was a desperate move in a high-stakes game. The real reason the U.S. wants Greenland is because the world is changing. The ice that was a barrier for all of human history is gone, and in its place, a new battlefield for the world's great powers has opened up. It's about geography. Greenland is the ultimate high ground for defending North America, letting the U.S. spy on its rivals and control the new oceans of the North. It's about resources. Greenland is a treasure chest of rare earth minerals that power our entire world. Controlling them isn't about money, it's about breaking China's dangerous monopoly. And it's about trade. As new shipping routes open up, Greenland becomes the gatekeeper to the future of global trade, giving whoever controls it unbelievable power. But more than anything, the desire to own Greenland is driven by fear. Fear that Russia, with all its new bases, and China, with all its money, are already winning the race for the Arctic. The clumsy offer to buy the island was the U.S. admitting that it had messed up, that the map of the world is being redrawn, and that Greenland is now square in the center of it all. Of course, the people of Greenland have their own dreams. They want independence, and they've made it clear their future is not for sale. Now they're stuck in the middle of a global power struggle they never asked for. The bid to buy Greenland might have failed, but the reasons behind it are more real than ever. The U.S. will keep trying to control the island with its military and its money because it feels like it has no other choice. The laughing is stopped. The reality is here. This isn't about buying a giant piece of ice. It's about securing a winning position in the battle for the last frontier on Earth. The U.S. doesn't just want to buy Greenland, it feels like it needs to.
Hit like if Greenland's secrets fired you up. Subscribe and ring the bell for more world-shaking exposés. Comment below, does the U.S. need Greenland to beat Russia and China? Please comment. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at @AtlasAffairs73.